Welcome to Heart of the Matter, the programme which is committed to telling you the truth about who must do what and why if the Palestine problem, the cancer at the heart of international affairs, is to be cured before it consumes us all. My guest tonight is another man who receives death threats from supporters of Israel, right or wrong, for daring to tell the truth they once suppressed. He is one of the world's best, most courageous and distinguished journalists. Our paths crossed for the first time more years ago than either of us care to remember, when we were covering the war in Vietnam. He is John Pilger. John is also a prolific author and the maker of award-winning documentary films. It was after his 2002 film, Palestine is Still the Issue, that he received death threats and what he described as slanderous abuse from supporters of Israel, right or wrong. Most of the organised hate mail he received came out of America, where the film was never shown. Harold Pinter, the great Jewish playwright, wrote the following: John Pilger unearths with steely attention the facts and the filthy truth, and tells it like it is. I charge the mainstream media in the UK and throughout the Western world with complicity in Zionism's suppression of the truth of history. Now, if that's a charge you would make, and possibly you would, what would be your opening statement for the prosecution?
Well, I suppose my opening statement would be that the basis of any truly civilized society, true democracy, is justice. It's truth and justice. And I would say that until there is justice for all the people within any state, within any country, within any region, real justice, and those withholding that justice are guilty of one of the great crimes. We don't need to quote the great criminal tribunals like Nuremberg. We're talking about natural justice. And those who deny people the natural justice, the right to speak out, the right to live properly, the right to bring up their children, the right to a life of decency and knowledge and opportunity, those who deny that are committing perhaps the greatest crime of all.
So we're quite clear, you're saying it, and if you are, I'm agreeing with you, that the Zionist state's denial of justice to the Palestinians is a crime.
Yes, it is a crime. I wouldn't keep it just as the Zionist state. I always feel that when there's an Israeli assault on the Palestinians, assault on the Lebanese, assault on the Syrians, it's not simply an Israeli Zionist assault, it's an American assault. The two have to be brought together. That's very important. We can't simply say it's all Israel, because without the United States, and to some degree Britain and the European Union,
the complicit countries,
complicit, but really without the United States, Israel would be forced to be a normal country.
Yet still today, John, the mainstream media clings to the mythology that Israel was in danger of being annihilated. Now, I can think of only two possible explanations for this. One is that it's simply lazy, uninformed, ignorant journalism. Or the other is that it's editorial policy, driven by the fear of offending Zionism. What do you think it is?
Well, I think it's both. But, you know, when you enter the portals of a great broadcasting institution like the BBC, for example, it becomes almost like mother's milk, that you understand where the limits are, that you understand that there is a virulent censorship, and it's censorship by omission. Now, those words will not pass through your consciousness, but you're made very clear, it's made very clear to you if you attempt to extend those boundaries. I think 1967 is a very good point to make about how the media works, because the truth is out. It's not only out from the likes of you and me.
It's there on the record.
It's on the record. All the Hebrew archives have been thoroughly mined.
Yep.
You know, the nonsense of the great bogey Nasser, when he was, you know, had the last thing he wanted was to invade Israel and have himself absolutely crushed, which he was. And, you know, the so-called attack of Syria, which didn't happen, and of Jordan, and all these.
But John, so many years have passed. What you're saying, it's all there for knowing, and yet still our journalism can't come to grips with it.
But it's one of many, isn't it?
It's a fact that all commercial news organizations, newspapers, television, radio, commercial, 75% of their revenue comes from selling advertising space.
Yep.
Now, isn't the real problem that editors and executives fear that if they offended Zionism too much, simply the advertising plugs would be pulled, and that would be catastrophic?
I'm not sure they make that connection. I think it's important to get this right. I'm not sure they actually think that. But it's a kind of, again, it's almost a subconscious truth. They know that to offend really big advertisers is going to be a major problem. I think there is more, my own view, that is part of it, but it's not the major part of it.
What's the major part?
I think the major part is what I was attempting to describe, that our self-belief in ourselves as an enlightened people, not an exploiter. This comes straight out of imperialism.
One of the great former directors of military intelligence, Huckabee, who we'll both be aware of, he wrote that the biggest threat he thought to Israel's future security was its self-righteousness. Yeah. So are you saying that one of the reasons why our media and our politicians can't come to grips with the truth of history and Zionism's lies is because there's a mutual reinforcing self-righteousness?
You're almost suggesting that the media is playing its honest role as what Edmund Burke called the fourth estate.
No, I'm saying it should, and it isn't.
Well, I'm not. I mean, the truth of the media, the facts of the media, and we both know this, is that it is an extension of the established order.
Wonderful quote from Lord Reith, the founder of the BBC. Did he not once say of the British establishment, I've got the quote here, they know they can trust us not to be really impartial?
Well, yes.
That's exactly what you were just saying.
Yes, and Reith is a very good example of that. Lord Reith, who founded the BBC at the height of the general strike in this country, and there was the possibility of a little revolution then. And Reith played his part by writing propaganda for Baldwin, then the Prime Minister, and broadcasting it while denying the Labour leaders their right to broadcast. That was his version of impartiality, and that has been sustained ever since. Impartiality is absolutely fine. Objectivity is absolutely fine. Balance is fine. Until there is a threat to us, then it can be suspended. We'll go back to it later on, but it can be suspended. And that's happened during wartime. It's happened during what is seen as when the establishments have been in crisis. And it's certainly happened